This is an excerpt of a recent Power Up webinar on creating clip speed changes in Adobe Premiere Pro. Hi, my name is Larry Jordan. There are 5 different ways to create slow-motion video effects in Premiere. In this short video, I'll show you the image quality differences between them. Well, I've talked about being able to do slow motion, and notice here I've got some gaps. I call that to your attention. We're going to talk more about that in just a minute. If I play this clip, how do I describe this? The engine that we're looking at drives the propeller of the only coal-fired ferry in the southern hemisphere, called the Earnslow. Well, this is such a cool thing. I'd like to see it in slow motion. So let's jump to the next clip. Command R, and let's run this at 50% speed and leave all the settings alone. And notice that when I do, there's a clip here that blocks it, that when I set this to 50% speed, it goes as far as the next clip and stops, which means that it is truncated, it's trimmed the out. Let's look at this more closely, because we're going to study it for quality. Now there's 3 things I want you to look at. First is this governor here, that spins, and we want to see how that gets handled in varying forms of slow motion. And look at the clarity in these images. Yes, there's motion blur, but between these cams and this driver here, the piston, we want to see how the quality of that image changes. So here's the full speed, very smooth. Here's 50%, pretty smooth as well. A little bit of motion blur we have to work with. But what happens if I slow this way down? Let's slow this down to, say, 10% and play it. Now when I play it, notice how steppy it is, how each shot is a still frame, and it holds for a while. But it has a very jerky, step-by-step, watching a bunch of still images kind of feel. To get rid of that steppiness, I'm going to type Command R and change the time interpolation from frame sampling to frame blending. What this does is this puts a dissolve between each frame. We'll render this so we can see it in high quality. This puts a dissolve between each frame, and look at how the steppiness is gone, but I've kind of lost the image quality because it's blurring. See the blur? Right there, everything is kind of blurry as it moves from one frame to another. It's just simply putting a dissolve in. The next option is, again, let's do 10%, and this time we'll set it to optical flow, and click OK. And again, while we're chatting, I'll render that. What optical flow does is it invents new media. It looks at the starting frame, looks at the ending frame, and tries to figure out what it needs to create for intervening frames to make the smoothest blend from frame 1 to frame 2. It's a really good concept. The problem is it doesn't work reliably, as I show you. Watch it how frame blending. Okay, here's frame blending. This dissolves between frames. Remember, we're running at 10% speed, and this is optical flow. I'm going to use the arrow key. Look at how this is just getting eaten away. It gives us very strange, look over here at this governor. It gives us very strange, look at these cams. They're changing shape and changing color and dissolving. It's just highly distracting and very unpleasant. So optical flow is a good idea, but it does not work reliably well. I show it at every training when I talk about speed changes, but I don't use it in real life. Here's another option. Extreme slow motion created in Topaz Video AI. And look at how there's no blurring. The images are much clearer. It's very smooth. This is running at 8 times normal speed, but the software is AI assisted to give us high quality slow motion. If we compare, look at, this is optical flow, and this is Topaz Video. There's just no comparison. With Topaz Video AI, it's inventing frames between frame 1 and frame 2. It's looking at the in-between frames and using AI to figure out what they could look like, and that's what it would use in the slow motion. The absolute best slow motion, though, is to shoot high frame rate video and put the high frame rate video into your project. Here's how this works. This is a gas-fired fireplace that's shot at 240 frames per second on an iPhone. Select this, and I want to run this at 10% speed. Well, let's make it, 10% speed. And notice how there's no jerkiness. There's lots of detail. There's lots of subtlety. What I'm doing is I'm taking each individual frame and playing it inside the sequence to get the highest possible image quality. Here's another example. This is a high-speed loom at the Lowell Historical Site. This is what the gear was used when the mills were in business here in New England around the 1800s and early 1900s. I shot this again on an iPhone, and I'm going to slow it down. And because I shot it at a high frame rate, when I slow it down, it doesn't have to dissolve between frames. It doesn't have to invent new frames. It just simply plays all the frames that are there, which gives me the highest possible image quality, the smoothest slow motion, but it requires that I think about it before I start the editing. And if you stop, any one of these looks perfect in terms of focus and smoothness of movement. So one of the things you have to pay attention to with Premiere is make a note of what frame rate you shoot the video at, because it may be necessary for you to dial in the correct percentage so it plays at the normal speed that you want. So the absolute highest quality is to shoot high frame rate video. Second is to have a third-party application, whether it's Revision Effects Twixtor or whether it's Topaz Video AI, create high-quality video. Third is frame blending. And fourth, if your speeds are greater than about 20%, just work with general slow motion. The good news is you have options, and now you know what the options are and the trade-offs between image quality and the time spent calculating that slow motion video. This was an excerpt of a recent Power Up webinar on creating clip speed changes in Adobe Premiere Pro. For the complete version of this online training, please visit my store at larryjordan.com/store and look for Webinar 349. By the way, when you need to stretch your training dollars, membership in our video training library saves you money and time. You can access all our videos for a low monthly price of only $19.99. That's almost 2,000 movies, hundreds of hours on a wide variety of subjects. Plus, premium members can download practice media and projects. Our training covers Apple and Adobe software. We update it multiple times each month, and for more information, visit larryjordan.com/membership. And thanks.